Stereotypes have been around since the 1800s, and they are still affecting how we see people to this day. Everyone has a stereotype. Some people have multiple. And we feel it's time to start learning the difference between someone's opinion and someone basing you off of a stereotype they heard. High school is full of stereotypes, and we are going to show you some examples, and we're going to ask people their thoughts on growing up in this stereotypical decade.
Nice shirt, you slut.
You might think this is over-exaggerated or it only happens in the movies, which is somewhat true, to a point. If a girl walked down the hallway wearing something revealing, it's unlikely that someone will call them a slut straight to their face. But what does happen is people do it behind their backs and they still get stereotyped, all because of an outfit choice.
I'm Ben.
I'm Braceless. I am Mosquito.
I am a person.
I'm tired.
I'm gay.
I am Cool Gaines.
That's amazing. I am a daughter. I am an athlete.
I am adorable. Fine. We are adorable.
I am a stereotype. So what even is a stereotype? Because most people don't know.
Grandma, what is a stereotype?
A stereotype is a fixed or oversimplified image or idea of a person or a thing.
Do you know who Anna Rust is?
Who?
The short girl?
Wait, is it that girl over there?
Yeah, the short one. Ready? Oh. So Anna, how does it feel about being known as the short kid?
Well, I don't really care because I've kind of gotten used to it. But
Do you have negatives in your day-to-day life of being called short?
well, I feel like there are times that yes, it does affect me, but most times no. Because there are advantages about being short, I guess, and I've kind of gotten used to it now. So I guess yeah.
Okay, stereotyping often puts two groups of people against each other, which can lead to rude and disrespectful comments and teasing amongst each other.
Hey, what's
Spread
happening?
it out, bud.
Basketball.
Where's your glasses,
Don't do
nerd?
that.
Where's your
Take
glasses?
them back. Hey, give those back. Go back to class, nerd. Bye.
Yeah, bye.
Yeah.
To get the opinion of fellow students, we decided to ask them a few questions.
Do you think stereotyping is a form of bullying?
I mean, in certain cases, like to some people it could be considered bullying, but other people kind of like being stereotyped. So I feel like for those people, they're like, oh, somebody's calling me the popular kid, and they like it, so they're like, oh, it's good. But then there's the other people where like they might be a very nice person, but they're considered the nerd. So like, I don't know, they probably consider it bullying. So I kind of think it depends on what you think is stereotype and what your stereotype is.
How often do you see it in school?
Oh, I see it all the time. Like you can't walk down the hallway and not see clumps and like be like, oh, those are all the like gamers. Oh, those are all like the basketball team. That's all the hockey team. Like you see it and you know, and you like see Snapchat stories of everybody being together and you just know who's there because you know who's in that clique and you know who's in that stereotype. So it's just like, yeah.
How does it affect the people following the media?
Media is very powerful in the way that it can control masses. So what you read determines on what your opinions become. So there are a lot of people who support Donald Trump in America because they don't look at all the sides. They look at what he's saying. So it can affect the media in the way as what they do, how they show it, what is represented, and how they represent it.
What gender do you think is most stereotyped at a high school level?
It's girls.
Mossy.
Girls, because whatever, like anything they do can be painted as something that is their fault.
What gender do you think is most stereotyped at a high school level?
I think both of them, well, the main two are the ones that are most stereotyped, and you can kind of see it in the way that people portray themselves. A lot of girls wear a lot of dresses, frilly things. They're pink or they're light colors. They wear a lot of makeup. they talk a lot on their phones and do Snapchat and stuff. While the guys, they do sports. They wear tan cargo pants or something. They act rough and wild, and they're the ones getting in trouble. Like, it's perpetuated in the way that what you see determines who you are, and it's peer pressure in a mental sense. So whatever someone else does to fit in, you do the same thing, and it just is a circle.
Yes. How do stereotypes influence you on the daily?
I feel like when people look for new like friends or something, they might think of a certain group of people like negatively just because of stereotype, but you don't really know those people and you would never even think to be friends with them just because of that.
What gender do you think is most stereotyped at a high school level?
Girls, because I think they're kind of like portrayed to be sluts depending on how they dress. Like if they dress a bit revealing, then everybody will think of them as sluts from like there on. And also
Okay, high school students are like known for using technology. So how do stereotypes affect the media?
They affect the media in the way that it's portrayed. There was this one instance that I saw where a man had murdered his family and boiled them in acid, and he was white. And the picture they showed was of him laughing with his wife and child. But these two black people stole baby food for their child because they were broke, and they showed the mugshots. So a man murdered his family, but he was white, so he got a nice photo, and two people stole because they had to, and they were black, so they got a mugshot. And it shows, like, they must all.
What do you think is the difference between a stereotype and an opinion?
An opinion is something that can also be good and bad, but a stereotype is always has sort of more of a negative view on a group of people, while an opinion can be on only one single person.
What gender do you think is most stereotyped at a high school level?
I think guys are most stereotypes because people think that all guys are jackasses, but I'm not. I'm a nice guy. I'm Mr. Nice Guy.
Do you think stereotypes have gotten worse over the past few years?
I think so, definitely, especially because of how the transgender movement has come out, because a lot of people say you have to be one thing or the other. Stereotypes come up about being a male or female, along with the stereotypes of gay people. Like, oh, you must be this way, you must be flamboyant, you have to, or you're not gay. That's not a real gay person.
We also wanted the opinion of an adult. We chose Mr. Chatterton because he's a sociology teacher at our school.
So, what gender do you think is most stereotyped at a high school level?
What gender do I think is most stereotyped? I would say, I think any gender would have stereotypes attached to it, but probably the people who would face the most restriction on their behavior, I think, based on stereotypes would be probably females. Would be my answer.
What do you think is the difference between a stereotype and an opinion?
Difference between a stereotype and opinion. I think stereotypes come from other people's opinions to some degree. I think they're kind of absorbed, so we pick stereotypes up. Sometimes you can pick your opinions up in places, but I think there's more thinking involved with a personal opinion than there maybe is with a stereotype. Stereotypes to me are more about lazy thinking or a way of not having to think about something.
High school students are known for using technology.
Are they? I'd not noticed that.
How do stereotypes affect the media?
How do stereotypes affect the media? I'm going to say that's a circle. So stereotypes would affect the media, and media propagates stereotypes. So I think it's circular. Because media really is a reflection of us, right? And what we think. So when we see a stereotype in the media, I would have to think that that's probably the result of a number of people believing that stereotype and then, of course, feeding it into the media. So I see that totally as a circle. They feed into one another. I'm not sure that you can separate them or find a beginning to that.
Why do you think people stereotype others?
Lazy thinking, like I said. I think people stereotype other people because it's a quick and easy and often very ugly way to stop thinking about something. You can just generalize an entire group of people and say, well, that's that. And that's lazy. That makes it so you don't have to think about individual cases. You can just kind of paint an entire group with a certain brush and then move on with your day. It's lazy. What's the cat on your shirt? Is your cat holding a walkie-talkie? Oh no, it's in. Sorry. It's a Nirvana shirt. I'm sorry.
How do stereotypes influence you on the daily?
How do stereotypes influence me personally on the daily?
Yes.
On a daily basis. That would be hard to answer because there would be some stereotypes that are so probably ingrained in my thinking. Because some of these stereotypes are socialized. Like we pick them up just having undergone socialization, right, over the course of our lives. So I may not notice all of them. So I would probably, like, just off the fly say I don't feel that I'm personally stereotyped against at all on a daily basis. But of course I probably am for a number of reasons in a number of ways, because I'm male. You could pick anything, right? Because I'm overweight, I'm sure that plays a role, right? So I just don't notice it, right? So I really couldn't answer that one very well. That's my answer.
When you hear a stereotype being made, do you tend to follow with the stereotype, and if you do, why?
So if I hear a stereotype being made, do I tend to follow it?
Yes.
I try not to. I'm sure I do in some cases and don't realize it. But when I realize it, I try and make a point to stop myself. I think that comes with age a little bit too. As you get older, you tend to kind of see the holes in some of the stereotypes.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that would be my answer.
Do you notice when you make a stereotype?
Not always. Not always. Like I said, it's ingrained, right? Some of these things are taught to us from such an early age. Family is a really important kind of agent of socialization. So some of these things, if you learn them from your family at a young age, you might not even notice that they're there anymore, like they just become a part of you, which is terrifying if you think about what some of the stereotypes could be. And of course we have media, that's another socializing agent that kind of we get bombarded with. So I would say I don't always notice them. When I do, I try and curb them, but I'm sure a number of them get through.
Do you think stereotyping is a form of bullying?
Is stereotyping a form of bullying? I think it can be, just like it can be a form of racism or a form of sexism. I think it can be all of those things. It depends on the stereotype, right? Even, I don't know if you could have such a thing, but something like a positive stereotype, like something that would be a stereotype, but some people might incorrectly, I think, say, well, that shows somebody in a positive light. It's still a stereotype. You're still generalizing, right?
Yeah. So
the problem is still there. So I don't think there really can be a good stereotype.
Do you think stereotypes have gotten worse over the years?
Have stereotypes gotten worse over the years? I couldn't say. I would have to probably go and, I don't know how you would do a study on stereotypes, but I would have to go and actually look at some sort of data on that. I really couldn't say. I would say probably my perception of how many stereotypes are out there, it probably seems like they're getting worse, but I don't think that there's any more or less stereotypes. I couldn't really say for sure. I think that what that has to do with is how much media we're bombarded with, right? It's the opportunity to see these stereotypes and memes or silly little gag photos on the internet. The internet's a great tool, but it's also a terrible place, right? So you can say and do anything there. So I think all of these stereotypes, anyone that wants to be a bully or a racist or a sexist, they have this venue to kind of do that without any kind of repercussion, really.
Yeah.
So I would say I don't know whether it's gotten worse or not, but my gut instinct would be that it's probably about the same as it's always been. We just have opportunities to see far more of it. That's that.
So we read this book called TTYL, and that's how we got the idea for our project. So the book is about 3 teenage girls and their best friends, and they're in high school, and it's supposed to relate to us, and we're supposed to be able to relate to this book, but it's very stereotypical because it's basically telling you how you should be, how girls should be, but in reality it's not at all. And the book is written in like messenger form, like texting, and they use lots of emojis, and the print is pink. So again, stereotyping that girls love the color pink. And I just think that this book is not for every girl, so they shouldn't try to stereotype it, and they shouldn't try to say this is a book for every teenage girl when it's not.
Okay, Hero.
Do you have a favorite part in this book?
No.
Do you have any part that stands out that you would be able to tell someone about if you were talking about it?
The language that's being used in some parts.
Can you give us an example?
No, because I don't use that language.
Oh, you mean the bad words?
The bad words.
Oh. Do you like how they stereotyped saying that all girls have to swear?
No.
Do you swear?
No.
Do I swear?
Yeah.
Do you think that you would recommend this book to anyone?
No.
Do you think that little kids should be reading this book?
No. Big no.
Big no. Do you think that it's an appropriate book for school?
That's controversial.
Well, in your
Could be.
opinion. In your opinion.
Well, I mean, we're in high school, so it's like a level where like you're starting to read like more mature pieces of writing. But like it's also like I wouldn't waste your time teaching students about this book.
Do you agree that every girl should read this book?
No, because I don't want to read it myself.
Do you think that if you saw someone reading this book, would you be able to strike up a conversation and say like, oh, I read this, like, what do you?
I would be able to strike up a conversation and say what's bad about it. I don't think I'd be able to say anything that's like good, because I would only remember the bad.
Do you remember any good parts or only bad?
Only bad.
Only bad. Okay, thank you. Every girl would have the same kind of thoughts when reading this.
Some girls may think it's correct because some girls may be the way that they're like stereotyping in this book, but I think some girls actually might take offense to it or think that they need to be a certain way because this book is so stereotyped. Like a girl has to wear dresses, she has to wear makeup, she has to be talking about boys all the time, and I think that's not right.
Do you think that the majority of girls like to wear makeup, like to wear dresses, like to talk about boys?
Like I think a lot of them do, but a lot of them also don't. So like we still shouldn't be stereotyped like that. I don't think it's really fair to be said that we are like that when some may not be.
Okay. When reading this book, what were the thoughts going through your head?
I thought it was really offensive to girls that we're being stereotyped as one when we're all so different and making us sound kind of like petty.
Gabe, what was your initial reaction to knowing that you were going to have to read this book?
It looked pink, so I assumed it was something for teenage girls.
Do you think that you would have been better off choosing a different book?
Probably.
Why?
Well, I just thought this book was really bad. It was like too much drama.
Yeah, you don't like drama?
Not really.
No, you're more laid back?
Yeah.
Do you think that this book is for every girl?
No.
You think that most girls would like it?
Probably not.
No. Okay, thank you. I heard a really good riddle the other day. So the police get a call about a suspected murderer at a house. They don't know what he looks like. All they know is he's a man named John. And when the police get to the house, they open the door and they see a game of poker going on. They see an engineer, a truck driver, a mechanic, and a fireman. And one of them is the murderer. With no questions asked, they automatically know it was the fireman. How? I really like this one because it basically makes you assume the gender of each person based on their job. Although in reality, the fireman is the only man in the room and the other people playing poker are women. We wanted to see if anyone could crack the riddle by thinking outside of these gender stereotypes. How?
Because a fireman goes when there's a police call, but there's already a fireman there. Is that right? No, I have no idea.
That's smart, but no.
No. Do you want me to tell you the answer?
Yes. No, can we just restart the video?
No, you need to tell me the answer.
Okay.
Can we restart the
No,
video?
Anna.
Are you ready?
Yes.
He was the only man there. The rest were all women.
You assume gender.
You assume their gender.
You.
No.
Is it that he would have been on duty?
No. It's just they all I don't know if they all have their uniforms or not. They just know that it's the fireman.
Is he covered in blood or any bodily fluids?
Nope. Oh, possibly. I don't know. Not that I know of. Want me to read it again?
Yes, that would be.
Okay, so anonymous call when they get there. 4 people: a mechanic, an engineer, a truck driver, and a fireman. And it was the fireman. How'd they know?
Because maybe the truck driver isn't a man.
You're close.
So it's a female?
Yes. The truck driver is a female.
So that's it?
Yeah. So the fireman is the only man. So that's how they knew it.
Oh.
Yeah. Isn't that a good one?
Yeah, that's cool.
You're close. You got it. That's pretty good.
I don't know.
Okay, I'll say it again. So, anonymous call. All they know about him is he's a man and his name is John. So when they get to the house, there's a mechanic, an engineer, a truck driver, and a fireman. How'd they know it was the fireman?
Well, because you put the word man in the word fireman. But
Yes.
all those other people could also be men.
No, but they're not. They're women. So he's the only man there.
Oh, okay.
Could the volume students come to the office, please?
Because his buddy's named John.
Yeah, his name is John.
Because most firefighters have the name John.
Someone else said that. No, it's not that.
Not?
No.
Because he was the only one that was winning.
Keep thinking.
He, because he was everybody. The fireman was everybody.
Could you imagine? No. You want me to say it again?
Yeah, go for it, yeah.
Okay, so police get call, show up at the house. All they know about him is he's a man named John. So when they get there, they see a mechanic, engineer, truck driver, and a fireman. And they automatically know it was the fireman. How?
Maybe he said that when he was on the phone with him. He's like, hey, I'm a fireman.
Why would the murderer call himself in?
Maybe he felt bad.
Could you imagine? You're close. You're getting there.
Am I actually?
I say just tell him.
Do you want me to just tell you?
Yeah.
He was the only man there. The rest were all women.
You just
assume their gender based on their career.
We think people need to put aside labels and stereotypes and take a second to realize we aren't a group of things. We are all individual people, and this proves it.
Are you guys are here today for me to ask you some questions to show that every girl is different, we're not all the same? So, if you work out or lift weights, raise your hand. If you wear makeup every single day, raise your hand. If you like to wear pretty pink colors all the time, raise your hand. If you like to read, raise your hand. If you enjoy listening to music, raise your hand. If you enjoy drawing, raise your hand. If you're a girl, raise your hand. See, we're all so different, so we shouldn't be defined as one. Okay, so I'm going to say something like, for example, do you like to read? And if you do, then you raise your hand, and if you don't, then you keep your hand down, okay? So, do you like to read?
Sure.
Okay. Do you like pop music? Do you guys like to hang out with your mom? Do you guys like to play sports?
Do you have to be good at it?
Do you play or have played an instrument?
Oh, it's halfway.
Yeah. Do you like the color blue? Are you guys obsessed with shoes?
No.
Do you guys like skateboarding?
Oh, yeah.
Do you guys prefer having your hair looking on point?
Yes, come on. Come down there. You look like a father, man.
And are you guys jerks?
Jerks?
Yeah.
Kind of jerk, Jesus.
I don't know.
Like,
What's a jerk?
you know.
Are you guys okay, thank you.
You are not defined by stereotypes. You are not a fixed or oversimplified image or idea of a person or a thing. You are you.